Tara.
It's 5 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Special meeting of the board. Would you please stand? We'll salute the United States flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Now join Calvin in a prayer.
Father, we just thank you for this blessed day. Thank you for all the ones that are here. And thank you for this great school district. Father, we ask that you just bless us in a special and mighty way. Father, we just don't want to pray for our school district, but school district around the nation and around the world. Father, we ask you to continue to bless us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Is there anyone in here that wants to make a comment on an item that's not on the agenda? Notice a public meeting to discuss budget and proposed tax rate for 23-24.
Good evening, board. It's a full meeting tonight. We have a lot of items on the agenda, don't we? So the first one here that we're going to tackle will be the final budget amendments for fiscal 22-23. And that's on a separate handout that was given to you by Tara. There's a front and back on the budget amendments, and then the last page of that handout is actually the final amended operating budget for 22-23. So the first page just represents those amendments that we have processed in the month of August. Normally these would have shown up on your September consent agenda, but these will be part of the final amendments for 22-23. And so here is the list. There's not very many on there of the budget amendments that we processed in August that cross functions. The back part of that sheet is the one that I use at the end of the fiscal year to project what I think all of these functions are going to do by August 31. And you never really know for sure until sometime mid to the latter part of October, when our audit is going to conclude and you have final numbers. So that can be kind of tricky. One of the things I have to do is I have to project what the payroll accrual entry is going to do. That gets posted at the end of August. So I've had you already project what that's going to do, because it's going to affect all these different functions. And then you have accounts payable, you have all kinds of other auditing journal entries that will be posted. And so we have to do our best to try to project what all that's going to do to the functions and put some padding in there so that when it all gets done, that we're not going to be overspent in any of the functions. You understand that? So it's kind of tricky. And I use a broad brush, I guess is the best way to look at it on this amendment here. So we have, for instance, $75,000 that was added to increase function 36, which is student activities. We added revenues in the child nutrition and also added expenses to function 35. And this primarily has to do with the equipment that we bought this summer. And then the last one there, we have a number of functions that we added some money to, took some money from other functions, and it all netted out to about $421,000. And that was the final entry. These numbers now will be reflected in the next item, which is the final amended operating budget. But you need to make a motion to approve these final budget amendments before we talk about how this impacted the final budget for 22-23. You have any questions about that? Okay. So like I said, you kind of have to throw a very broad brush to make sure that you catch them all, and that you leave you some slack, like in the maintenance department particularly, and
air conditioners.
Yeah, they just want more air conditioners. I said, I think I got enough slack to cover a bunch more air conditioners that they want to do like in the coming days. which would add expense, to function 51. So if you think you're okay, you have any questions about any of these budget amendments, I would be happy to talk to you about it.
What playground was fenced?
I think that was
Playground fence?
elementary.
Intermediate.
Was that intermediate?
Intermediate.
Okay.
Intermediate, thank you.
You know how it was kind of wide open, so you could just walk to Farm Bureau? Well,
Oh,
now
yeah.
it's all
Good,
fenced.
good, okay.
Any further questions? Do I hear a motion to accept them? Okay, we got a motion by Jimmy, second by Charles. All in favor? And it passes.
Thank you, board.
Now discussion items.
Now, if you go ahead and post these final budget amendments to the original adopted budget for 22-23, that's what this next chart that's on your handout shows. Final amended operating budget for 22-23. And you'll see there that we started out with total revenues at 30 million. We're ending pretty close, really, only 150,000. That's due to that amendment we did on the child nutrition. On the expenditure side, the original budget was 29.7. The amended budget is 30.1, for about a 450,000 increase in the expenditures. A couple 100,000 of that was in the function 51 facilities. Security, we didn't really have that all budgeted out when we started like a year ago. And we were still kind of in limbo between the city and coming up with our own security officers. But we wound up having to add another 175,000 to the security budget, 51,000 to the 81 budget, which is facilities, and the food service 347, extracurriculars 130. Those are the major ones where we had to come back and add some more budget numbers for the expense side. And then, for instance, in instruction, we were able to take 372 out of function 11, and that's primarily due to the fact that we do have budgeted several extra positions that at the end of the year, if you don't use them, then you have some available funding in function 11. So most of it came out of function 11 to make up for all these additions that we had to do to come up with a balanced budget. Any questions on the final amended operating budget for 22-23?
Do I hear a motion that we accept this? Linda, do I hear a second? Jimmy, any further discussion or question? All in favor? And it passes. Final amendment.
All right, this next item will be, you're going to give final approval to next year's school budget, 23-24. You've seen this budget several times. You saw this budget at the budget workshop that was held earlier this month. And this final budget is exactly the same budget that you saw at the budget workshop. There have been no changes to this budget. And so what I presented to you here is the sheet that will actually be posted on our website, which is a required posting. It includes last year's adopted budget on the left, and then the adopted budget for 23-24. So you're seeing here that our revenues is going from 30.279 to 32.665. This revenue budget, by the way, does not include the additional taxes that we're going to the voters for, those 3 additional pennies. We did not budget for those 3 additional pennies, either on the income side or on the expense side in the 23-24 budget. I'll talk more about that later, but if it does get approved by the electors, we'll have the opportunity to make budget amendments for the additional income that'll be coming into this fiscal year. One caveat will be anything you do to salaries could be a problem. Those might be viewed as a gift to public funds, and we don't want to get in that kind of trouble. So I was gonna throw this out there, there's a possibility that I might call a quick meeting before the 31st of August to approve some language, the attorney's working on it, so that if the voters approve the extra 3 cents, and you do want to make some compensation to staff, add that to this current budget, we'll have to do a budget amendment and approve a revised amendment for 23-24. Does that make sense? But I don't want to get into some trouble, but I also want to provide you the opportunity, if that's what you decide to do with the extra 1.3 million, is to assign some of that over to personnel compensation, then we'll have to actually do a revised budget to avoid any problems legally. And the attorney is supposed to get back with us tomorrow with a final say on that.
Otherwise,
So this
it's
has kind
like
of
a
been tricky.
gift.
Otherwise, it might be considered a gift to public funds, and we don't want to do that.
Which to me is crazy because it's the payroll, it's the people working here. But it's an easy solution. You just have a meeting that takes 2 minutes and you approve, okay, some of that 1.3 million we want to go towards the staff. And so preliminarily, I'll go ahead and just say it. We've been wanting to do, normally their Christmas bonus is 500. We're wanting to make it 1,500. And so that would be about, 411,000, I think, of the 1.3 million. And then the rest of it is a lot of stuff that we need, like air conditioners on buses, intercom systems that are 50, 60 years old that are about to not work anymore. And it's a huge, safety concern if there's, a need to talk to everybody. Computers, all those things, band instruments, things that you normally can't buy because you don't have the money. You would have a windfall here once in a lifetime to where you could actually get some of those things accomplished that you normally can't. But a big portion of it, though, would go right straight to the employees, just as money in their pocket.
So at what point are we able to go to the public and say exactly what these 3 pennies are for?
He's
'Cause
working on a plan.
I think they're gonna wanna know.
He's working on a plan right now to present to the board.
One of the big things that Daryl will get to here in a minute is the wording on the ballot. So Daryl and I and Justin Crothers have been working, trying to get this down exactly what we want it to say. And so here in a minute, we'll go over that, but it stresses that the increase in the M&O is 0% because it's being compressed so much. We're just asking for a little bit back. But on the ballot, it's not going to read in layman's terms. It's not going to say anything about, well, do you want to do the school district favor and give them 3 golden pennies? It won't say anything like that because most ballot wording is very complicated and hard to understand. And so we want to make sure that everyone understands, okay, when I look at what this is saying right here, okay, that's the 3 pennies. That's what we're voting on right here. So we'll go over that here in a minute.
So, once the voters approve the additional 3 pennies, we'll be able to come back in with some budget amendments for 23-24. It's just that anything that deals with compensation to personnel might run afoul of that issue with a gift to individuals. And so that part of it, we would have to make sure we're back into maybe a separate resolution before August 31, so that we can make provisions for that kind of a thing. Does that make sense? So, it would be a very short meeting. It wouldn't be very long, Calvin.
Well,
But it would be the 3rd, which
yeah.
normally we have 3 anyway.
And when you're talking to your buddies about it, another context to think about is that the state gave nothing. The state gave absolutely nothing other than $15,000 per campus for security, which your average police officer doesn't make $15,000. The other thing is over $3 million in federal ESSER money has totally dried up. So the feds, the state did nothing. And meanwhile, you have extreme historic inflation.
So, do I have a motion to approve the operating budget for 23-24?
Okay. Mary Ann makes a motion. Is there a second? Okay, we have a second. All right, Cheyenne makes a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? All right,
Thank you, Board.
M&O.
All right, the next item is the adoption of the M&O tax rate for 23, which will be in support of the school budget of 23-24, although we don't have that additional 3 cents in the budget at this point. I did find out from Justin Carruthers that the bills, tax bills, will go out, assuming the additional 3 cents are approved. And if the additional 3 cents are not approved by the electorate in November, then Justin will have to actually send out correct bills. And then anyone who's already paid their bill, at that point, will get a refund. But the initial bills that will be mailed out from the tax office will include the higher rate.
And that, we have nothing to do with that. We did not request that. That's just how that's how it's done. So I want to be clear on that too. That's not something that we asked or wanted.
Right. So we're recommending to the Board of Trustees that we set the 23 maintenance and operations tax levy at 0.6992, which does include the additional 3 golden pennies in support of the operating budget for 23-24.
Any further discussion? Do I hear a motion? Charles? Do I hear a second? Calvin? Last chance for any questions? All in favor? Okay. Interest in sinking.
Okay, likewise, we will be officially setting the INS, which is called interest in sinking tax levy rate. And it will remain at 20 cents as it was last year. So our recommendation to the school board is that you approve a INS tax levy rate of 20 cents for 2023 in support of the 23-24 school budget.
Any further questions? Do I hear a motion to accept? Jimmy, second. Mary Ann?
Second.
Last chance for questions? All in favor? All right. Tax ordinance.
All right, so we have officially what we call the ordinance, and it's number 47 for Gatesville ISD. And it's an ordinance to set the tax rate for next year. And typically that ordinance has been read in public here at this particular meeting. And it's an ordinance that's calling for ad valorem tax of 8992, which includes the M&O and the INS. You want to request somebody to read that, or do you want me to read it? I'll be glad to read it.
Go ahead.
You want me to go ahead and read it? Okay. Ordinance 47 to set the tax rate. Whereas the Board of Trustees of Gatesville Independent School District must establish the tax rates to be levied on taxable property within the Gatesville Independent School District, which is to be recorded on the Corio County tax rolls. Whereas the Board of Trustees has approved and adopted the tax rolls of the Gatesville Independent School District and the total valuation of all taxable property rendered for taxation for the year 2023 is $1,210,634,028. Whereas the Board of Trustees has adopted the budget for 23-24 school year, and it is now necessary to establish the 23 tax rate in support of the 2024 fiscal year budget. Whereas the Board of Trustees has approved adopting a tax rate of 0.8992, now therefore be it ordered by the School Board Trustees of the Gatesville Independent School District, Gatesville, Texas, Section 1, total tax rate. A total tax rate aggregating 0.8992 shall be levied on each $100 valuation of all taxable property located in the Gatesville Independent School District and appearing on the assessment roll for the year 2023 in accordance with the constitutions and laws of the state of Texas. This tax rate will raise less taxes for maintenance and operations than last year's tax rate. It was a compression. Section 2, allocation of tax rate. 0.6992 of the total rate is specifically levied for current maintenance and operations, M&O, and 20 cents of the total rate is specifically levied for the payment of principal and interest on debt, INS. The tax rate will effectively be decreased by 10.85% and will decrease taxes for maintenance and operations on a 100,000 home by approximately $118.35. There is hereby levied and shall be collected from every person, firm, and corporation pursuing an occupation in Gatesville Independent School District, which is taxable by law, the full amount of taxes permitted by the laws of the state of Texas. Such taxes are to be assessed and collected by the Coryell County Tax Assessment Collector. Section 4, severability. If any portion of the ordinance or the application of the same to any person or set of circumstances is for any reason held to be unconstitutional, void, or invalid, or for any reason unenforceable, the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance or the application to other persons or sets of circumstances shall not be affected, it being the intent of the Board of Trustees of the Gatesville Independent School District, Gatesville, Texas, in adopting this ordinance, that no portion contained in it shall become inoperative or fail by reasons of any unconstitutionality or invalidity of any other portion. Section 5, effective date. This ordinance shall become effective upon adoption. Adopted by the School Board of Trustees of Gatesville Independent School District at a meeting on August 21, 2023, at which a quorum was present, and for which due notice was given pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.001 and Texas Education Code 44.004. So this is the ordinance that you're voting on.
Do I hear a motion to accept? Jimmy? A second, Linda? Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Fund balance resolution.
All right, you've become accustomed to this every year where we come in and we designate a portion of the August 31 fund balance. This is in the form of a resolution by the board, and I'll be happy to read this too if you want me to read it. Or you want?
Do we want to hear it? No.
Okay.
Poor Daryl.
That's okay. I still have some voice left. All right, the Board of Trustees of the Gatesville Independent School District being convened in regular session at its regular meeting place within the boundaries of the Gatesville Independent School District on the 21st day of August 23, with a quorum present in the persons of, and you fill out the ones that are here, does everybody. Whereas trustee blank introduced the following order. Moved its adoption, and the motion having been seconded by trustee, and we'll fill in the blanks there, was duly put and carried, said order reading as follows. It is hereby resolved, ordered, and directed that the Gatesville Independent School District take the following official actions with respect to its August 31, 2023 unassigned fund balance. Be it resolved that $100,000 be committed towards satisfying the district's 25% residential placement set-aside requirement under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act Part B. Be it resolved that $500,000 be committed toward the district's property and casualty loss deductible in the event of a catastrophic loss. Be it resolved that $2 million be committed to offsetting potential future fluctuations in state aid funding and or delays in the district's August state payment. Be it resolved that $500,000 be assigned for major capital acquisitions and facility projects as future needs dictate, and that the superintendent is hereby authorized to make specific project assignments with board approval, so long as the aggregate amount of all such assignments does not exceed $500,000. Be it further resolved that the district's board, upon review of its annual operating budget policy CE local, reaffirms said policy without any modifications.
Do I hear a motion to accept? Linda? second. Cheyenne? Any further questions? All in favor? Okay,
Thank you, Board.
resolution?
These commitments and assignments of fund balance will appear on the next audit report.
Campus activity funds.
All right. This is also a board resolution protecting campus activity funds. Basically, it falls under GASB 54, assignment of campus activity funds. Really, the purpose of this is just to ensure the integrity and the safeguard of campus activity funds, where they're not going to be brought into the general fund. And here's what the board resolution says. Be it resolved, the Board of Trustees of the Gatesville Independent School District assigns a portion of its August 31, 2023 unassigned fund balances reported in the general funds as follows. Campus activity funds. For GASB 54 purposes, the total fund balance of campus activity funds is hereby assigned to the respective campuses from which these funds were generated. Passed and approved this 21st day of August 2023. So this will be another motion to pass this resolution. And if you have any questions about that resolution, we do it every year. And it's a way of safeguarding the campus activity accounts.
Does that protect the campus activity fund for charges on lunches?
That's a good question.
What do you mean by that?
Charles?
Well, when I was principal at intermediate school, we always got a notice that said you have so much money that the kids have charged that you haven't been able to collect. We're going to take that out of your activity fund.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds to me like this prohibits that.
It could be probably interpreted that way. I mean, it's been a long-standing practice, but
Have we been doing that?
Yes.
Look, all the principals have the smug look. What are you, a lawyer, Charles?
They're all the former
Turning
principal.
outside understood over here.
So we'll need to abstain from doing that then.
in the future.
We have a lot of people, a lot of churches that will call us and ask us and say, do you have any unpaid student balances? We really want to pay for it. So I don't think we need to worry about the campus activity accounts. Because there's a lot of people that like doing that. They like paying for kids who can't pay for their food, so.
Yeah, it wasn't a very significant amount, maybe $300-400 a campus, is what I probably recall.
Right. Okay, do I hear a motion? Okay, Calvin, do I hear a second? Linda, any further discussion? All in favor? All right. Tax ratification, election.
Okay, this is the biggie. In order to take advantage of those 3 additional golden pennies that we've been talking about, which will produce an estimated combined increase of $1.3 million in maintenance and operations tax revenues and state aid beginning in fiscal year 23-24, a tax ratification election is required for current state law. In anticipation of the expiration in 24-25 of the ESSER 3 grant, which Dr. Paulo referred to a while ago, which has benefited the district over a 3-year period up to $1.2 million annually, and the need to provide for future teacher and staff salary raises and benefits, the extra revenues from the 3 additional golden pennies represent a critical source of funding toward maintaining the district's financial stability now and into the future. Management therefore recommends to the school board that you approve an order calling for such an election for November 2023.
So for you guys that just came in here, to kind of explain it one more time. So all the federal money that we've been getting, more than $1 million every year, it's dried up. It's gone now. The state, during this last legislative session, decided not to do anything for teachers. We didn't get any extra money. And so we've got an opportunity here. Districts have something called the golden pennies, where our you know, you get your appraisals are going real sky high and everything, and then you multiply it by the tax rate, and that equals the amount that we get. And so the tax rate is being compressed 19 cents. The It's the biggest compression we have ever seen. But what we're asking for is to compress it 16 cents. Give us 3 of those back. That would generate 1.3 million a year. So you don't have to vote for it once, but then you get the 1.3 million extra every year. And so we want to use it for raising teacher salaries, getting a lump sum of money for some things that we haven't been able to do, like air conditioners on buses and some things that we really need. And so when you go to the poll, it's never in simplistic layman's terms. This little paragraph right here is what it's going to look like. So ratifying the ad valorem tax rate to 0.8892 per $100 valuation in ISD for the current year, a rate that's lower than last year, but will allow the district to receive state aid and local tax revenue it otherwise would not have received. That's alluding to the 3 golden pennies. Will result in an increase of 0% in maintenance and operation tax revenue for the district for the current year as compared to the preceding year, which is an additional $0. And so Darrell filled in the blanks with those numbers because it is being compressed so much. We're getting something out of it, but it's not hurting the taxpayer in the sense that it's not, the M&O tax rate isn't going up. It's still going down. And so if you find it in your heart to do that for the school, you would vote for that. What I'm afraid is that some of our school people are going to look at that, okay, is this the 3 penny thing? Well, wait a second, it says it's going to give us 0% and $0. I'm going to vote against that. No. Don't misread it. Vote for it if you're wanting to give the money to the school. So that's something we're going to have to educate the public on. And you can't just rest on your laurels, is what I've kind of told the staff as far as communicating. I talked to Mayor Chumley, and a couple of years ago, they had a 2 cent increase they wanted. It fell by 2 votes. Because it wasn't communicated enough. You've got to, if you're for it and wanting to help, that you got to get out there and kind of pound the pavement and explain it to people. You know, because people ask you, well, what are they going to use that money for? You know, they're just going to waste it on something. You know, so you're going to, you know, that's part of the education process. Sorry, Darrell.
No, you did a great job. Thank you.
Just want to interject that part.
I'm ready to go forward.
Do I hear a motion? Jimmy, a second? Cheyenne, any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Engagement letter.
All right, so this is an engagement letter with a law firm, McCall, Parkhurst, and Horton out of San Antonio, who's assisted us, school district, with the implementation of this tax ratification. And making sure that all our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed and that everything is legal. All the documents will be done correctly, and they're assisting us through this process of this tax ratification. So I ask you to approve the engagement letter from this law firm. Their estimated fee is $5,000 to $7,000.
Do I hear a motion? Cheyenne, the second. Linda? All in favor? Okay.
Thank you.
Do we need
Thanks,
an
Darrell.
executive
Yeah.
session?
No, and we've already prayed and did the pledges. If y'all are good with transitioning straight to the regular. Tara, you good with that?
Yeah, we just need to say when this one's ending.
Okay.
So it's ending at.
All right, it's 5:33 p.m. This concludes the special session, and we will begin the regular session at this time.